This week I'm going to show you how to shoot still lifes in an aquarium.
Adorama TV presents Digital Photography One-on-One, where we answer your questions. Here's your host, Mark Wallace.
Hi everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Digital Photography One-on-One. Well, we got a great question this week from Al in Moorhead, Minnesota. Now Al asked, hey, it's getting really cold here in Moorhead. Do you have any tips for shooting still lifes inside? Well, Al, absolutely. In fact, what I did is previously I zipped over to a discount store and bought an aquarium and a hammer and some strawberries and flowers and a little squeegee. And what I'm going to show you how to do is take all that stuff and put it in your house or a studio if you have one and shoot some really interesting still lifes in water. Now, the nice thing about this is we're going to shoot everything right side up, and then we're going to flip it upside down in Photoshop, or you can use Lightroom or Elements or whatever you have. It doesn't really matter. And you can get some really interesting effects. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to do this using speed lights. You don't have to use speed lights. You could use ambient light if you have a bright room with lots of light coming in if you don't have those. But today I'm going to use speed lights. Now before I go and show you this stuff, let me tell you about the settings that I'm using on my camera. I have my camera set to FP sync. In other words, high speed sync if you're a Canon user, FP sync if you are a Nikon user. And that allows me to use my speed lights at a high shutter speed. And my shutter speed, it varies, but I have it up around 1250th of a second, really fast. And that helps to control some of the reflections that we get off the aquarium. And then I'm shooting an aperture value of about 8 or 9 around there, and that gives me a nice depth of field. Now the remote flashes, I just have all those flashes set to remote mode, and then the D7000, which is what I've been using in this video, it has a little commander module, so it tells all those flashes to fire. And if you have a different camera, you can put on a remote control, or you can just use a little cable to fire those flashes. The important thing is not how we lit it, it is the effect that you get by shooting stuff inside the water. So without further ado, let's go take a look at this crazy setup with an aquarium and a hammer and all the stuff I just described. All right, well, we're going to start shooting a bunch of stuff inside this fish tank. Now, I want to walk you through how we set everything up. Now, the first thing is this fish tank itself. This is a fish tank that I just went to a discount store and bought for about 35 bucks. We also got this little squeegee thing right here. And what this does, in addition to the fish tank, I think this is like $3 or $4. When you get your fish tank, you have to make sure you wash it really well and get all of the grime off of the glass. And then after you do that, you're going to have little bubbles that will stick to the glass, and you need to squeegee those off. So with this little squeegee, you can just sort of pull those up. Now we've already done this, so we don't have the little bubbles in there. But if you don't squeegee that, you're going to have bubbles in front of whatever you're shooting. It's going to look a little weird. So get your little fish tank, make sure you buy a little squeegee. And then the other thing is we have this flower held in here, and it's held in by this little hanger right here, and just another little clip there, and that's how we've positioned this, and we can sort of move it left and right and get everything in there. Now the thing is, water creates a prism, and so when you're throwing in your flashes and getting your camera lined up, angles are really important. So let me show you the angles. So first of all, I'm using my Nikon D7000 here with a macro lens, and I'm focusing this just on the flower, and I'm shooting up. And so the top of the frame is the top of this water here, and you'll see that we're going to agitate that, and then we're going to flip everything upside down, and so the top actually looks like the bottom, and that's how you get that look of a flower or something coming out of water. It's actually not coming out, it's in the water. Now the other thing, if you come over here, we have this flash. And these flashes are just used, they're all in remote mode, and so the D7000 has a commander module, and so it's controlling these. And what we've had to do here is make sure that these are going in at a 90-degree angle, because again, we have this crazy prism, and if we don't get them in at right angles, then the look is going to be a little bit strange. Now the background, what we've done here is we have this Apollo, this Westcott Apollo, and inside we have another speed light, and on top of the speed light I've put just this blue gel, and I've just used clothespins to stick that on there. You can use tape, it doesn't matter. And what that's going to do, we're going to put this down, and once that gets all velcroed in there, what that does is it's going to create this really strong blue background, and that's what we want. So that's just going to be shining in, and that flash is going to be set at full manual mode from the camera. So I've set my commander module to put that in full manual mode at full power. So I just want to blast that. And then this little flash over here is on the other side of our flower, and that is going to give basically a hair light. And so if we bring the camera around to our camera's angle, what you can see is we have this light here that's basically the main light illuminating the front of the flower. We have this little light over here that's illuminating the back of the flower. And then we have this light that's just blasting blue light, and that's creating our background. Now to make this look good, what we're going to do here is Kelsey is going to step up and she is going to agitate the water. And what I'll do is she's going to really stir up the water a lot. And right before I take a picture, I'm going to tell her to pull out that straw, and the water's still going to be rippling. And I'll take a shot. And so 3, 2, 1, take it out. Good. And we're going to do it one more time because my timing was a little bit off. All right, and 3, 2, 1, go. Good. And that is awesome. And so that picture looks pretty cool. And what we'll do is now we're going to throw that into Lightroom or Photoshop or some editor, and we're going to twist it so it is upside down, and that's going to give us the look that you see right here. And you can see how awesome this looks. Now we could shoot this without that back flash over there, so let's just turn that off really quickly. And let me show you how that looks. So we're going to agitate one more time. So Kelsey, really get that water going. And 3, 2, 1, good. And that picture, you can see it's not quite as good without that backlight, but maybe you like some of those shadows. But the joy of this is you can just sort of play with these different lights, and you can turn them on and off and do all kinds of things and get some really interesting looks. In fact, we're going to play with this. We're going to actually start dropping in some strawberries. We're going to add some food coloring. We're going to do all kinds of things all inside this fish tank, and we're going to put together 2 or 3 images. And the point is, you can do this at home. You can even take this fish tank outside perhaps in bright sunlight and get a similar look if you don't have flashes. And instead of having a flash with a lot of blue light, you can get some construction paper and put that behind your fish tank to get different colors, red or blue or green or whatever you want, to complement the flower or whatever you're shooting. So we're going to play around with this. We'll show you the results of our images, and so let's take a look at those next. Okay, for this next setup, what I have to do is pre-focus the camera. So I've set the camera in manual focus mode, and then what I've done is I've put this hammer in here upside down. I'm using a hammer because it's got a nice weight, and it's got a wooden handle and a label on it, and that will allow me to know where my strawberry, which is what I'm going to use next. I'm going to drop this strawberry into the water. It'll allow me to know exactly where to drop that, and my focus will be set. Now to make sure I know exactly where to drop this strawberry so it lines up with where the handle of the hammer is, which is where I pre-focused, I've actually used this little yellow tape here to make some marks on the side of the fish tank. And so that way I know when I take the hammer out where to drop that. And though what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use a very fancy technique of 1, 2, 3. So I will actually have the strawberry in one hand, and I'll have my finger on the shutter over here, and I've locked this all down. So I've pre-focused this, pre-composed it, and then I'll just count to 3 and then drop and shoot all at the same time. And with a little luck, I'll get a great shot. So let me try that, and we'll show you the results. All right, for this next setup, we're using basically the same exact thing as we did before with the strawberry. We have a hammer in here, and we're using that to pre-focus the camera and to tell us where to drop this. And this is just basic food coloring. And so what we're going to do is we're going to drop this in. It's going to swirl around, and we should get some really interesting looks. Now the problem with this, it's food coloring, so once we do it, we only got a couple shots, and then that's it. We have to clean out the entire tank, so we better get it right the first time. So Kelsey's going to be dropping this in, and I'm going to be shooting, and we are going to get this perfect. So is this all set up where you want it?
Yep.
Okay, so I will count to 3, and then you drop it in. Okay. All right. 1, 2, 3, go. All right, there we go. Now we'll take a look at these. Hopefully they turned out. Well, there you have it, an aquarium, a hammer, and a bunch of crazy stuff, and put it all together to get some really interesting photos. So really play around with this. You can put all kinds of stuff in that water to get some very interesting photos. So don't limit yourself just to flowers and strawberries and food coloring. I'd love to see what you come up with. So if you get some great shots, put them on our Flickr group, and we've put the link right underneath me in the lower third so you can see where to go to get that. Now, one of the things I would suggest is to throw these photos into Photoshop or Lightroom or Elements or iPhoto, whatever you have, and just play with those. In fact, what I did was I used Lightroom, and here's a shot that we did, and it's just of that flower. And then what I did is I radically changed the colors using some of the presets in Lightroom, and so here are two other versions of that exact same flower, and you can see you can get some really interesting effects. Well, thanks so much for the question, Al. If you're like Al and you have a question about photography, please send your question to me at askmark@adorama.com. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, or if you're watching us on iTunes, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Well, thanks again for watching. I'll see you again next week.
This episode is brought to you by Adorama TV. Visit the Adorama Learning Center, where you'll find photography tips and techniques, links to the gear used in this episode, and related videos. For all the latest photography, video, and computer gear, visit adorama.com. And the next time you're in New York City, visit our store, located on 18th Street between 5th and 6th Avenue.
Soylent Green. Okay.
Digital Photography One-on-One is written and produced by Snap Factory. For more information about our workshops, visit snapfactory.com.